is success a bit of a problem? Because when you're successful and you have a game like, let's say, Quake or Doom or Age of Empires 2, you might not be taking as many chances creatively, and then you're kind of stuck in this, repetitive, let's say, non-creative cycle.
Well, the way it happens, really. So what happens in the companies is that the developers always want to do something new and different, right? It wasn't a problem at Microprose because basically every game designer had his own separate kingdom with his own lead programmer, so they could you had to get your projects approved, but they were all separate empires, right? So I did software. We're all working on the same game, and always it is software. The plan was that the next game was going to be a flight sim, and I'm not making this up. That was our plan. It was going to be a great flight sim, part comedy. You're going to have a plane that had 1 billion bombs and rockets and guns, and you're going to fly around and blow everything up, and it's going to show off the 3D. It's going to be that. And then we said, we're going to do this right after Doom. I said, that's great. Then we said, well, we got to do Doom first. Okay, he says, well, let's do Quake. Could use to make sure we know what to do. And then, of course, they never did the flight sim, right? But that was always going to be the next game. Well, at Ensemble Studios, especially once they hired me, they said, okay, after this, we're going to do a first-person shooter.
Really? Literally. They wanted a first-person shooter at Ensemble.
They loved Doom and Quake. They wanted to do a first-person shooter. So we'll do that next. But first, we got to get Age of Empires 2. And then said, okay, now we got to do Age of Empires 3. Then when Age of Mythology came along, there was a huge debate over what they should do for the next game.
Because Age of Mythology was a great game.
Age of Mythology, the candidates were Age 4, Age of Mythology, or the Sorceress again, or the shooter. And there was a lot of guys that wanted the shooter, and I felt that I shouldn't weigh in because I like an obviously interested party, and my vote shouldn't count. But I made my case for the different things, But also I was a lead, so and then in the end, but as all usually happens, like the corporate guys on top, like which happen to it, even they say, well, we're sure to be able to be a success if we do Quake 2. We're sure to be a success if we do Age of Empire, Age of Mythology was like so the source of cowardice is
from the top, from the guys that want the most amount of money out of this thing.
Well, they think they do, but I'm not sure they actually get the most amount of money, because sometimes you do something creative and new, and it actually is bigger money. It's like how many Marvel knockoffs and and sequels and remakes are there that are just bomb and do terrible,
right.
But no one gets fired for suggesting Ghostbusters 2016. right?
That's true.
It should have been a good idea, right? But for the amount of money they spent in Ghostbusters 2016, they could have done their own actually original funny movie. And the same thing is true of games. They think this will be the success that'll play on it. Now, it's not quite the same as movies, because usually sequel movies keep getting worse, and sequels in games can keep getting better, because you keep the same team and they can do something different, So like Age of Empires 2, I think was better than Age of Empires 1. Certainly sold better. Age of Empires 3, I think was better than Age 2. It didn't sell as well because it's harder to push like colonists and Renaissance musketeers over samurai and Vikings, right?
Sure.
So I think those what I'm saying is I think those guys are wrong. But I think they get their way because they think they're being right. But they aren't creative. They weren't hired to be creative. They're hired to be the business guys. And so having them make the decisions. Now, you can also argue that
they go the other way, right?
Big picture, maybe we do it wrong too. And maybe we would. But if you have a developer that is a position of power that can actually make the decisions, then you end up with things like Pikmin, which no corporate guy would ever approve.
Yeah, and yet that's a brilliant success. Yeah, and a unique game.
Right. Exactly. Who would ever do a Pikmin is crazy, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, but it's a great game. I don't know I'm sure it didn't outsell Mario Kart, but it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, creativity is this fine line between like sanity and insanity, right? Trying to convince someone something that you see has potential when they just look at the money side of it. So